KBET signed on the air in 1955.
And when it did, the original owners decided that local news would be a big part of our service to the community.
And with that philosophy, Channel 10 became the first Sacramento station to broadcast regular daily newscasts.
Your neighborhood Shell dealer who serves you with Shell Premium Gasoline with TCP presents Shell News with Hank Thornley. Britain's Princess Anne presided at a tea party at Balmoral Castle in Scotland in honor of her 5th birthday.
Hank Thornley, who is retired and living in Las Vegas, and Paul Meeks, Channel 10's first news photographer, broke new ground for TV news in Sacramento.
We did feel like pioneers because we were trying things that hadn't been tried before.
And for an exclusive report on this latest development, Shell News cameraman Paul Meeks visited the Sacramento office of attorney Howard P. Welch.
Actually, there were 15-minute newscasts, and we were doing everything. We were doing news, sports, and weather.
The true impact of TV news was quickly realized in those early days when Thornley and Meeks took Channel 10 viewers to the scene of major events and introduced them to newsmakers.
Well, Airman, we're certainly glad to see you back, Airman Schmidt, and we hope we know it'll work out fine for you. And thank you very much for joining us in this interview for KBET TV Channel 10 in Sacramento. Thank you.
The impact was fantastic because I don't think until then and the subsequent weeks where we introduced on our own film into the news that management realized what an impact a news department would have on TV.
Later that year, the biggest story yet for local television news occurred on Christmas Day.
Hank called me at home very early in the morning and says, get some boots and clothes. We're going to Yuba City.
And we headed toward the bridge and were stopped there and informed that the levee had broken on the Yuba City side and that Sacramento River had been diverted into Yuba City.
Film of the disaster was rushed to the Sacramento studios, hurriedly processed, and put on the air on Channel 10. And suddenly, the way news was delivered to Northern California changed.
The newspaper people and the wire service people felt that we were scooping them. And I said, you know, this is progress.
When Thornley and Meeks left Channel 10 in the 60s, the news operation had grown, and in fact, it was called The Big News.
Whenever and wherever an important event takes place in KXTV country, the KXTV News team is ready to roll, to get the pictures and to get the story.
By 1965, Channel 10 began broadcasting much of its news in color.
This is the home of California's Governor Pat Brown.
KXTV by this time had also established a full news bureau at the state capitol.
I can tell you this. I'll try very hard.
Ronald Reagan's reign was not trouble-free. With reporters in San Francisco, the Channel 10 Big News covered growing unrest at what was supposed to be a peaceful summer of love.
Favorite pastimes of the hippies, besides taking drugs, are demonstrations.
It was a different time in society and on television. The old pictures show a news department void of any women. Betty Ford, the station's original talk show hostess, was still at Channel 10, and she thought it was time to get a female presence on the news. So she approached the station manager.
I went into his office and I said, why won't you let me try out, just let me try out as an intern? Oh my God, he said, no, women don't do the news.
Then came a new manager and more groundbreaking changes at KXTV.
There's a book out called Helter Skelter.
I came as the first female on air in the newsroom on Channel 10.
This is the KXTV Noon News Report.
It was more than just a fun place to be. We were all family.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
In 1969, just before Sande Drew joined the station, a new anchorman arrived in town.
And another dark period in California recent history was recalled by today's events.
Fresh from Boise, Idaho, Dick Cable began a 29-year run on Channel 10, the longest of any anchor at a single station in Northern California.
Count everybody in the newsroom, and there were like 20 people. And we put on a terrific newscast.
Striking city firemen
have called a halt to the first public employees' strike by officers of the law in the history of the capital city. Channel 10 newsman Bob McCafferty has the story.
Bob McCafferty, who now runs a public relations business, was a reporter and anchor when Dick Cable started.
I was anchoring one of our weekend shows, and Dick came in from Boise and was going to do a videotape in the studio. He still had hair then, and mine was dark brown. So it's like
Bob McCafferty, Channel 10 News.
And there's a new complication in the firemen's strike for the city.
A legend in Northern California television, Dick was here for all the big news events for 3 decades. And he was here as Channel 10 transitioned from the big news.
Good evening, this is the 5:30 report. I'm Dick Cable.
The biggest one that I remember was News Service 10, and I think that kind of worked its way into what we eventually became.
Exclusive sports coverage includes traveling to the spring training camp of the San Francisco Giants.
It was in the early 60s when KXTV hired its first full-time sports reporter.
Repeat, the San Francisco 49ers place kicker Bruce Gossett on waivers and no other team.
Wearing some pretty snappy threads, Creighton Sanders molded sports coverage on Channel 10 at a time before satellites and 24-hour sports channels made sports reporting easy.
If the Giants played the New York Mets in New York and Willie Mays hit 5 home runs, I couldn't get it until the next day when it would be shipped to us. The film would be shipped out to us.